The first explosion didn't sound like thunder. It sounded like the sky itself tearing apart. At 4:17 a.m., the waters of the Strait of Hormuz were calm, unnaturally calm, as if the sea knew something the world didn't. A thin mist clung to the surface, wrapping the massive silhouettes of naval ships in ghostly silence. Then, without warning, the horizon ignited. A streak of fire cut through the darkness, then another, and another. Within seconds, the sky became a storm of blazing trails too. 100 Qadr missiles screaming across the atmosphere, their engines roaring like a chorus of fury. The calm sea turned violent, trembling beneath the weight of what was about to happen. Commander Reza Khatami stood in the underground control room, his fingers clenched so tightly around the console that his knuckles turned white. He had trained for moments like this his entire life, but nothing could prepare a man for the reality of pressing a button that would change the world. Final confirmation. A young officer whispered beside him, her voice shaking. Reza didn't answer immediately. His eyes drifted to the small photograph taped beside the radar screen. His daughter, Lael, smiling with missing front teeth, holding a kite against a bright blue sky. He swallowed hard. Execute. Far above the Persian Gulf, Captain Elena Voss aboard the NATO destroyer Aegis Resolve felt it before she saw it. A vibration ran through the deck, subtle at first, like a distant echo. "Captain," the radar officer called out, his voice tight with panic. "Multiple high-speed objects incoming. Too many to track individually." Elena's heart dropped. "How many?" The officer hesitated. "Over 100, no. Closer to 200. For a split second, time slowed. Elena had grown up near the Baltic Sea, raised by a fisherman father who taught her that the ocean could be both a provider and a predator. She had joined the Navy believing she could control chaos, impose order on the unpredictable, but this was not chaos. This was precision, this was intent. Brace for impact. She shouted, her voice cutting through the rising alarm sirens. The first missile struck a frigate 2 kilometers off their port side. The explosion lit up the darkness like a second sun, sending a shockwave across the water. Flames erupted, metal twisted, and within seconds, the ship was no longer a ship. It was debris. Elena, her second, in command whispered, staring at the unfolding destruction. "We can't stop this." Another missile hit, then another. 6 NATO ships were caught in the barrage, their defenses overwhelmed by sheer volume. The sea that had been calm moments ago now burned thick black smoke rising into the dawn. Back in Tehran, Reza sank into his chair as the screens filled with confirmation signals. Each green light meant a target hit. Each light meant lives lost. He told himself it was necessary. He told himself it was defense. But beneath the uniform, beneath the orders, he was still a father who wondered what kind of world his daughter would inherit after this night. Thousands of miles away in Washington, D.C., the tension was suffocating. Daniel Reeves, a senior intelligence analyst, hadn't slept in 36 hours. Coffee cups littered his desk, and the glow of multiple monitors reflected in his tired eyes. He had spent years studying patterns, predicting conflicts, trying to make sense of human behavior through data. But nothing in his models had predicted this scale. "They've shut down the strait," his colleague muttered, pacing behind him. "Shipping routes are already rerouting. Oil markets are going insane." Daniel leaned back, rubbing his temples. "This isn't just about ships," he said quietly. "This is about control." His phone buzzed, a message from his younger brother, stationed on a logistics vessel in the region. "Are you seeing this?" Daniel stared at the text, his chest tightening. For the first time in years, the crisis wasn't just numbers on a screen. It was personal. Back at sea, Elena Voss stood on what remained of her ship's command deck. The Aegis Resolve had taken damage but was still afloat. Around her, the horizon was a graveyard of fire and wreckage. "Captain," a crew member approached, his face streaked with soot. "We've picked up survivors in the water. Elena nodded, her voice steady despite the chaos inside her. "Get them aboard, all of them. No one gets left behind." As sailors rushed to deploy rescue boats, Elena's mind drifted to her mother, who used to say, in the worst storms, "You don't think about winning. You think about saving what you can." And that's what this had become. Not a battle, a rescue. Meanwhile, in a small coastal village near Bandar Abbas, 12-year old Lael Khatami woke up to the distant rumble of explosions. She ran outside, her bare feet hitting the cold ground, her kite still lying where she had left it the night before. The sky wasn't blue anymore. It was streaked with smoke. "Baba," she called, her voice trembling, but her father was miles away, buried beneath layers of concrete and responsibility. Lael didn't understand politics. She didn't understand strategy. All she knew was that the world felt different, heavier, scarier. And for the first time, she wondered if the grown-ups knew what they were doing. As hours passed, the global reaction intensified. Markets crashed, leaders issued statements, news channels replayed the same footage on a loop: missiles, explosions, burning ships. But behind the headlines, the real story was unfolding in quieter moments. Riza, alone in the control room after his shift, recorded a voice message for his daughter. "Lael," he began, his voice softer than it had been all day. "If you ever hear about what happened today, I want you to know that I thought I was protecting you." He paused, struggling to find the right words. "I hope I was right." Daniel, in Washington, finally called his brother. The line crackled. "I'm okay," his brother said quickly. "We were out of range." Daniel let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "Listen," his brother added, "whatever happens next, don't forget we're all just people out here. It's easy to forget that." The call ended, but the words lingered. And Elena, standing at the edge of her damaged ship as the sun rose over the burning sea, made a decision. "Open a channel," she ordered. "To who?" her officer asked. Elena looked out at the horizon, where enemy and ally had blurred into a single scene of destruction. To anyone listening, the message she sent wasn't strategic, it wasn't political, it was human. "This is Captain Elena Voss. We have survivors in the water hours and yours. We are initiating rescue operations. If you can hear this, stand down and help." For a moment there was only silence. Then, faintly, a response came through, not an order, not a threat. Coordinates, rescue points. In that fragile, fleeting moment, something shifted. The missiles had fallen, the ships had burned, the world had edged dangerously close to the brink. But out there, on a sea that had seen too much destruction, strangers chose just for a moment to save each other instead of fighting. And maybe, just maybe, that choice mattered more than anything that came before. Because in the end, power fades, borders shift, and conflicts rise and fall. But the decisions people make in the darkest moments, those are the ones that shape the future. And as the smoke slowly cleared over the Strait of Hormuz, the world held its breath, waiting to see which path humanity would choose next.